Where is, good morning, friends. I am just getting ready to work, and so not too much to say, except there's work to do. It is the Animation Truman Show. We skipped the jingle today. Who cares? We don't need the jingle to be functional, do we? And so I just realized on my little program launcher I've got a slight error that I need to remedy at this moment. So bear with me because you guys can't see what I'm doing, and it's not particularly interesting, frankly. But there we go. Cleaning off some things. Okay, let's see. The shot we were working on yesterday, we progressed through the ink, as I recall, and then offline yesterday got the most of the paint done, and it was, I would say this was quite a learning experience in that it reminded me of when I was doing ink in Blender, in that the thing I ran into when I was doing ink in Blender is I remember having the sort of proclivity to treat all the art as a single, just a bunch of lines. In other words, I didn't group things because I was just going to export it as an image sequence, obviously, for color. And so you don't have this idea that I've had in most of the shots I've done recently where each character is in their own group and things are sort of organized a little better. So to which you might say, well, who cares? Why does that matter? Basically, here's the reason why it matters. When your ink is all just, this isn't people, this is just a bunch of lines, right? The problem is that you've got this character that's got these tangents with this character, and you have these situations where character A is moving and character B is not moving. And so what happens is, if you see here, Golik's head moves, well, that means that you've got multiple frames where this ink has to be repeated, yet it's the same. And so what I found yesterday was I had tons of cutting and pasting going on, and it would have been much smarter to go ahead and put each character in their own group so that essentially Golik could be animated by himself and he would be in front of Vespigi, and if you hid Golik, you would actually see Vespigi's whole body, and it was just overlapped that way. That's actually what I did with Carliana. So she is a standalone layer that everybody else moves in front of. So, you live and learn. The upshot of it is, you would think maybe that having a more linear process that doesn't put everything into individual groups might actually be faster. In point of fact, I'm pretty sure it's slower. Not by a huge margin, but it's also much less fun because there's so much cutting and pasting. And so your job goes from being about drawing and emoting and acting, and it really just turns into freaking line management, and finding little problems that have to be fixed to compensate for the situation I just described. So for me, I'm not going to do it this way again. I don't think the idea of collecting several shots into a 20-second long sequence is necessarily a bad thing. I would say it can be fine, but yeah, it's a little dangerous, because it does hurt performance and yada yada yada. So anyway, that's really what I learned from this shot. So what I have to do with this shot is really two things at this point. And in terms of my production goal, I would say it's a failure because when it's all said and done, it will take about 7 hours or so when it's complete instead of 6. So 20 seconds start to finish is theoretically supposed to be a 6-hour job. Why? Well, because that means, assuming I work on animation 6 hours a day, then you just do the math, and what that means is I can produce a 24-minute show in 3 months. And then if I give myself an additional month for writing an episode, post-production, music, yada, 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 then that means you can generate 3 24-minute episodes in a year, which added up, that's 72 minutes. Actually, for an animated feature, that would mean you could actually create an animated feature in 1 year. Okay, so now that's all by myself, which is not necessarily a great thing. And by the way, I just put my stylus. Okay, right now we may have, okay, so just so you guys know, right now we have a small disaster that that I may have to stop the stream. I didn't realize this before I started, but basically, for reasons I won't get into that have to do with just managing my system here, which has 3 monitors. Right now, my stylus, as stupid as this is, you're not going to believe this is even possible, but when I touch my stylus right now to the screen, it's actually wiggling around on that screen up there. Well, that means stop everything. I can't get any work done at all. And I've had to fix this one time before. You know, in the last 2-3 years, it's happened once. And I do not remember what the solution is. So that means, as I said, I may have to just like stop the stream and reboot here. Rebooting the computer won't help because I actually did that yesterday, and that may have something to do with why we're having the issue. So there's that to consider. But yeah, there was a little bit of an issue yesterday evening that I think had to do with the GPU drivers or something. And so for now, we'll maybe push forward a little bit here with without using the screen. I think I mentioned yesterday, I actually plugged in my Deco to this machine, which is a standard tablet, and it worked great. Hey Darren, I set the active screen in my tablet driver settings. That it could be, I need to look at that right now. I figured I'd just get this kind of cached into memory so I'm able to work possibly. And so what we have here is, I got to minimize some okay, yes, that does look like that's the case. So yes, Darren, thank you for that little reminder. What I'm going to do is go onto my upper left screen and look at my preview device preferences so I can look at what the numbers are. Okay, so this is display number 2. So the problem would be at this point that according to my driver settings, it is on monitor 2. Oh, there it goes, and then it just came back to life when I opened up the driver applet. So there we go. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. You saved my life more times than I can count. Okay, so before I go too far, you know, I was watching an interview with Elon Musk. You know, they were talking a bit about the fact that he's, you know, working to buy Twitter right now. And, you know, I like Elon generally. You know, he's a pragmatist, and he tends to favor transparency. He wants to open source the Twitter algorithms and things like that. You know, he's basically good ideas. And then the thing that some people are going to have a cow about is that he's also pretty much a free speech kind of guy. And so some people are a little panicked that, you know, maybe Donald Trump will get his account back or something like that. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I think that, you know, you're going to make some mistakes and let those things sort themselves out as problems emerge. You know, it's kind of like I was talking about yesterday. I was speaking fairly strongly about the idea of not like, you know, how much time you can waste just dancing between software as opposed to just freaking diving in and getting some work done, actually do something instead of asking over and over, what's the best software? Like it's going to save your life or something. Is so stupid. You know, he's not a dumb guy, and he doesn't just dive in without thinking, obviously. But at the same time, here's a guy who has the brains to say, look, you've got to actually take some steps forward and then see what goes wrong, and um, and then make adjustments, right? So Goswami, I'm glad you're here because I'm kind of picking on you right now as somebody who tends to ask over and over and over and over everywhere you go, on Discord, on Ed Tadeo's live stream, on Darren's live stream, everywhere you go, you ask which software you should use, and so there's no question I am picking on you to a degree to say, a guy like Goswami needs to just go get something done, so that you decide what software to use. You decide what you like and what you don't like. So I trust that you're moving in that direction. Now, as far as what you said on the camera moves, absolutely, Krita 5's, the transform masks are buggy, and they are prone to crashes. So we would have to unpack your process probably a little bit in order to understand what went wrong. So I can't speak to it directly other than to say, yeah, I mean, if you try to use a transform mask for a camera move, there's a chance that the whole thing's gonna crash for one reason or another, and I just don't know what you did. Now, the one thing I know for sure will always cause either crashes or, well, yeah, basically crashes, or it'll certainly cause the transform masks not to work at all, is if you try to animate a transform mask and then use any mode except a standard free transform. You had one conclusion, Tahoma. Okay, great. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. So now go get something cool done in Tahoma and let us know how it goes. But let's not focus on the tool, but let's focus on the work. Right? Not the tool, but the work. Okay, so what does this whole thing with Elon Musk have to do with me? Well, as I was talking to Valerie today and about this conversation about the idea of setting as a goal, I set the goal of about 20 seconds of finished production, start to finish, a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, when I really sort of made the hardcore decision. Look, I am going to make this my full-time vocation. We are going to, between my cartoons and Valerie's books, this is what we're going to do. It's a decision that's been made, and it's not that the decision couldn't be rescinded for one reason or another, but basically this is the decision. We are creators of intellectual property. This is what we do. We write, we create characters, we create stories, and if we have an axe to grind sociopolitically, we'll do it through a story. But that's what we would like the rest of our life to be, just creating stuff. I've done plenty of it over the last 10 years in the live action feature film zone. So it does make me think about things like, well, if you can create 20 seconds a day all by yourself, which is supposed to be impossible, but you know what? Half of the things Elon Musk has ever done are supposed to be impossible too, right? So I'm no Elon Musk, obviously, but I certainly relate to the idea that you just say, no, we're not going to accept that this is impossible. We're just going to find a freaking way. And it does involve compromises. And Ed Young Goswami, one thing you might want to look at is, I mean, if you're going to continue pursuing it in Krita, okay, as opposed to if you're ready to give up, then give up. But if you're going to continue to pursue it in Krita, do be aware that I would say that if you've got an animation and then you're going to use a transform mask and animate it to do a camera move, make sure that that's the very last thing you do. Because if you add and for reasons I'm not going to explain right now, if you add a transform mask and then you go ahead and start changing the content of the frames by adding new frames, drawing new stuff, whatever, if you start adding content to the stuff that's being manipulated by the transform mask, you are inviting problems. So the camera move should definitely be the very last thing you do. So let's just say if this shot was being done that way, we would say, we would want it to be like this. This shot is completely done. It's absolutely complete. And I'm going to actually save my work so I can demonstrate this. So let's pretend that this is not broadcast HD. Let's pretend this is 4K. This is really, really high resolution, let's say. So we're actually going to take a little rectangle out of it, this big, roughly, and we're gonna move a camera around. How would you do that? Well, number one, I'm not going to do it until the larger animation is complete. So in this case, technically it's actually not, but let's pretend that it is. So I'm not going to be doing any more drawing. I'm not going to be doing any more animating. All right, that's number one. Number two, you're going to want to apply the transform mask to the entire group, which means that quite literally everything in your shot needs to be in a group. So you have to select all your layers, even if they have subgroups, and put them in a group. That's step two. Now, if you really wanted to be smart about it, you would not do this. What you would do is you would make copies of all these groups and then flatten them out so that each of your groups, and maybe even the entire shot, is just a single layer, just a simple frame sequence. That would be smart. Okay? And then you'd put that one frame sequence in a group, or you could apply the transform mask just to that single frame sequence. Okay? In my case, I could, at this point, because this has been rendered, I could accomplish the same thing by creating a new scene, actually, and then just import the animation frames from number 648, right? So I can accomplish the same thing I'm talking about by just doing this. Just go import animation frames, and then we're just going to go to 648, scenes. So in other words, if you're going to do the camera move thing, and clearly it is going to be more stable and simple to do it in Tahoma. You know, there is no debating that. Okay, but if you're going to do it, let's go to okay, I want to give the Windows Explorer a moment to sort of decide that it's done looking at all the files in the folder, because what's happening is I scroll down and then it finds some more, and it does the ASAP, meaning as stupid as possible thing, which is to jump up, which is no human being in the real world would ever want that. You would say if the software is still finding new folders, then it finds them. But there's no reason why that should map to your position in the folder that you're looking at, because then it makes it so you can't literally ever do anything. Because every time you go to click something, it jumps out of view, right? But that's Windows for you. I mean, every system has its quirks, and Windows definitely has some things about it that are, especially in the area of doing like file searches. Like if you do a search, like let's just say, I'm gonna search for the word wallet, right, in all my files and folders. So I get a search result in the files and folders, and in Windows, there's no way to actually see or store the path or get back to the path where something was found from. So that's kind of a warped explanation of it, but the bottom line is that you know, the natural things you would want to do with what you found are quite difficult to do. It's just silly, but anyway, as I say, that's software for you. So Control A, let's insert this image sequence. Okay, so we take a little breather. And by the way, just to be accurate here, everything that I'm showing right now would be also enormously easier to do in Vegas. It would make more sense to just crop the frame in Vegas. If it was rendered at 4K, then just crop it in Vegas and do the animation of the camera over there. Is Krita camera work more smooth than Tahoma? I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say it's I mean, you've got more control over easing in Tahoma, right? So I would say no. But that's not even completely true. Because see, look, if we add a transform mask, okay, so we've just got a simple group that's just an image sequence, and we add a transform mask. So what we would do is just add a keyframe. There's one keyframe. There, done, stop. Don't do anything else with keyframes. Just add one. Okay? And as you can see, there's a little dot there that tells you that's an animated keyframe. So then what would happen is you'd hit the A key, and then you want to be very, very careful not to be in any other mode except free. You don't want none of these. If you use any of these, your image will disappear, okay? Or Krita will crash. So in this scenario, what we would do is we would scale it up. And by the way, this is a little non-intuitive. What you would probably do in Tahoma would be to, you would actually move the camera, probably. You don't have to. You can do it with scaling. But scaling, you're sort of working backwards. You know, what you're thinking about is the camera moving towards something, but the way you express it is to scale it up. Anyway, so we have that, and I'm not going to deal with proper tweening. I guess I could just drag this over to here, if I can. And see, now Krita froze up, so you can see how unstable it is, but it looks like it did it. Okay, so it put a key there. So that just gives us the same positioning all the way across here. And you can see how hard Krita's having to work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, just for lack of a better idea, I'm going to go, I'm going to scale this up like crazy. And then, again, for lack of a better idea, I'm just going to hit the play button. And as you can see, what Krita's got to do is, Krita has to generate animation frames in memory for every single frame, right? Because every time there's a slight change in the transformation, it's technically a different frame. You know, it's a different picture. So you can see that this is enormously less performant than Tahoma. Tahoma is going to be much better for you if you want to be doing camera moves. So for Krita people, the point is you can do it, but it's not going to be that, you know, it's not going to be a lot of fun. It's just not. So there it is. You see that now Krita's got to think. Now, will this play back? Let's actually jump this back down to 8 frames per second, which is what the original animation was. And let's find out. Yeah, I mean, see, that looks pretty good. So you can do it. Here, we're going to now do the opposite. So you see how much that's scaled? I'm going to go ahead and shrink that back down again. And then we'll just pan it over like that. And then if I want to see it play back, and now, just to be clear, it does say, according to Krita, it's using 600 megabytes of memory, which really isn't that much. So, but now it's got to completely regenerate the cache again. All those steps of sitting and waiting, you're not going to have that in Blender. You're not going to have that in Tahoma. Because the transform mask animatable is an add-on to Krita. You know, it's a feature that's bolted onto the software, and it's really not dialed in yet, you know. So, hey, Amar, what should I do? It manually, but it will slow my workflow. Well, my advice to you is if you've already had a bad experience with Krita and you're resolved to go back over to Tahoma, then my advice is go back to Tahoma. Forget it. You know, anything like what I'm trying to do right here to show you is stuff that basically you don't want to be doing in Krita. Unless, in other words, if you have any other way to do it the other way. Because these are very primitive tools in Krita. They do work, but they're primitive. You know, it's just the way it is. So I'm going to go into this paint layer here, and I'm going to set this as the end time, so that when it when it spins around, so you can see what's happening. The camera's moving all over the place. So as I said, you know, it works. Everything works. Not a problem. You know, you want to save your work constantly, but no, I mean, for you, Goswami, my actual real advice for you is, if you like drawing and painting in Krita, then draw and paint in Krita, and then do what I was doing there for a while, quite a bit, which is just cut and paste your stuff from Krita over into Tahoma and do the hard stuff that's animation, the animation difficulty. You know, do that. do that in Tahoma. And I think, despite Amar's comment, which is pretty correct for most of the time, the reality is that your ability to get a controllable result with like ink and paint and shadows and stuff and glows, all that, generally I would say is a little more intuitive and easier in Krita, to sort of guarantee the final quality of the art, for lack of a better way to say it. Animation is enormously more mature in Tahoma. So if you want to use the two together, use the two together. What the biggest thing you need to not do, Ajahn Goswami, is look for the one magic all-in-one Swiss Army knife tool that makes everything in life easy. It's not going to happen. It doesn't exist. So get over it and then use the right tool for the job at hand. Okay? So that's that. Anyway, getting back to Elon Musk, and my point was this: if I can successfully generate 20 seconds of animation a day, and it seems that is quite doable in about 6 hours. It's about 5 to 10 seconds every couple hours, then it does become a question of scalability. If I had a team, it would take 8 people, theoretically. Well, who would those 8 people be? Well, if I'm a showrunner, then the 8 people would probably have to be 2 really good artists. So for me, if I had to go out and find 2 people that I think would be up to that job, like right now today, it would probably be Nagut 40, alias Ross Payne, and Full Chain Animation. Those are the 2 people I'd probably contact and say, look, I need 2 guys that are good. And then I would need about 6 people that are doing grunt work, assembling scenes, and some ink and paint, right? And then at that point, I would be doing probably some storyboarding, but not necessarily all of it, but writing episodes, final editing, because I am a pretty good editor and I'm fast at it, scoring voices, but it becomes a show running process more than a sitting here doing animation process. But it seems like you would need a team of about 8 people. 8 people would allow you to accelerate the process to where theoretically you're actually able to generate an episode a week. Now you've got a viable picture. Well, what's that going to cost you? Well, it depends. It depends on what the cost of the labor is, right? And it depends on what people's desired interest in the intellectual property is. In other words, if I say Amar, hey, look, I'm gonna we want to do this thing, which, by the way, I'm not saying that because we're not ready. To be clear, here's my path. My path is I'm doing this all by myself, with the mindset that if we get it out to market, at least get a sense of what the revenue picture is going to be, yada yada, before we take a bunch of risks in order to scale something that's as yet an unknown quantity. Now, there's a danger to that approach. The danger of that approach is the limit of my talent or skill. Okay? Because it probably turns out that you get a very few of the right people involved, and all of a sudden the quality of the work starts to go up quite a lot, right? Because I'm not actually that good at, animation or drawing or, maybe necessarily any of it, right? So there's that danger. But so the question for me becomes, well, what are the numbers? What's it take if you want to scale to the level of saying, hey, we're going to crank out one piece of 24-minute intellectual property every week? Because if you can do that, now you're in a position where you can make a pitch to Amazon Prime or whatever and say, hey, look, we got this idea for an original show. Here's what we're doing. We've proven we can do it. It's just a matter of scaling up the team and then sort of steering that ship for a bit. And now all of a sudden you've got, as I say, it seems to me about 8, maybe 10, but somewhere between 6 and 10 people should be able to, without really anybody working, 14-hour days, you should be able to crank out an episode a week. on a show. And basically you would always have 3 or 4 episodes in production, and they're staggered. You know, this one's being written while that one's being drawn, while that one's being inked and painted, and while the other one's being posted. You know, it's got, you know, you're doing the music and all this sort of thing. If you need a vector program, Adyan Goswami, my recommendation is just go back to Blender. But you've poked at Krita, Tahoma, and Blender, and that's it. So I'm looking at Amar's comments to see if he's talking to Goswami or talking to me. Based on the type of animation you can do, and you can do all that in any program. Is that to me, Amar? Talking about what I'm doing, or are you talking to Goswami here? Unless you're doing high-level animation and background work, the programs you always talk about will work if you choose just one. Okay, so you're right. Blender is vector. Yeah, obviously the grease pencil, the Blender grease pencil is essentially a vector format. In fact, it's quite nice. To tell you the truth, Goswami, the fact that you don't know that is kind of scary. You've been around for like a year, and you still don't know that the Blender grease pencil is a scalable vector format. Dude, you really need to do your homework. Stop asking questions and just go do it yourself, man. You know, we care about you. We want you to have fun and be successful, but you've got to freaking go do the work yourself. You don't need a vector animation program unless that's what you like. Yeah, you're telling me, okay, that's... So, yeah, so that's the deal with scalability is... And I like what Amar's saying, because I was actually doing a little test on the laptop today with Liquify to basically say this. Does it really require vectors to keep things clean enough? And what I found was that if I animate this, let's go here. The question, you know, the reason you have vectors is basically for scalability and distortion. I mean, that without losing resolution. And what you find, all my tests show that the level of distortion that occurs with fairly strong uses of the Liquify tool are so minor that they just don't matter. They literally just don't matter. Here, if you really wanted to, you can see as you're going east and west that the lines are thinning out a little bit, but you can actually compensate for that to a degree by just actually squashing them back and forth like that. You can restore the thickness if it goes out a little bit, right? See? And then if you really are worried about it, then you can either apply a very gentle unsharp mask, or you can clamp the alpha like this. Like if you look really closely, look at this. See how it's a little fuzzed out, right? But wait a second, it's not punitively fuzzed out, because if I go like this, I can actually bring that crispness right back. And if I use my curves wisely, look at that, how I can thin the line out. So it's like you don't need a vector format to deal with scalability. And frankly, most of the animation that's been created for television for the last 40 years has been done with essentially pixel formats. Not all. I mean, obviously you got a lot of stuff done with Toon Boom and things like that, but I mean, it just doesn't matter that much. You know, the more important thing is you pretty much want to be working at somewhere close to the final resolution you're going to actually spit out. In my case, I cheat that a little bit. I produce in broadcast HD just for performance reasons and whatnot, and then I actually scale the show at the end, you know, to deliver it to deliver it to distribution. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of an interesting exploration what it would take to actually scale up to generating a show a week. And it seems to me that the number is, it would require, well, if you were going to do well, I mean, if everybody makes $30,000 a year, then of course it takes $250,000. I mean, that's what it takes. And then that gives you a year of 8 people earning $30,000 a year, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, the information you find about the animation space is fraught with misinformation, right? You know, if you go look it up, you're going to find information that tells you that animators make about $70,000 a year, and then you go look into how much the guys doing anime in Japan actually make, and they're basically on starvation wages. I mean, I shudder to think it's just not a good situation over there. You're adding variables to more blockers in your way of animating telling stories. Yeah. I don't, I don't know how Goswami thinks, okay? I can just, from the questions he asked, I can only discern that he seems, and I've been guilty, I understand the psychology of it because I've been that guy, is it just seems to me he's just looking for the tool that's just going to make it easy. And I just, it's just stupid. If you want easy, get the hell out of animation. Okay? Richard Williams said that too. If you want it to be easy, why are you even bothering with animation in the first place? Like, you couldn't pick a stupider thing to be involved with if you want it to be fun and easy. Well, I shouldn't say fun, but if you want it to be easy. There's nothing about animation that's easy because it's a decidedly non-intuitive thing. Anyway, time to get to work. What we have here is, let's just turn this off. Okay, so we've got the boys, and then we've got Carliana. Okay, so what I wanted to do is basically I need to do two things. And again, like I said, this shot has failed the test of our time frame because we're basically at the 6-hour point and it's still not done. So that's okay. We'll work with it. So what we're gonna do is add a second shadow layer. And in this case, I'm going to continue doing it the way I've been doing it. So actually, we should call this shadow, and we should call this shadow 2. Shadow 2 for me generally is going to be just the broad shadows that sometimes are blurred over the whole thing. And shadow SHD is normally the detailed shadowing kind of thing. So let me look at this for half a second. I really don't want to get into doing all the layering issues. I'm really boxed in a corner on this thing because I can't emphasize enough what a mistake this was. Having these two characters being in the same layer where essentially, like, his lines end here was absolutely a mistake. It's made everything take probably 15-20% longer and be a lot less fun because there's so much cutting and pasting and fixing that has to be done. It just wasn't just a boo-boo, I shouldn't have done it that way. So there you go. Anyway, so let me just get started, and maybe what I'll do is, I'll pretend that they are on separate layers, and I'll just do it this way. I'll call this G shadows, and then I'll do Vespighi shadows separately. That will probably solve it. It really doesn't matter that the characters are on separate layers as long as the shadows are on separate layers. So, fine, let's do that. Let's get some work done here. Boom, boom, and I can see this is in curve mode, which is absolutely stupid because curve mode is basically useless most of the time. So we need to turn that back off. And now what we're going to do is get a little just natural shadow under there. And then after I do the shadows, I got to add the lip sync. So that's pretty much what remains to complete this shot. Okay, and then, normally, I guess here, probably something like that. And then maybe one along here would be okay. Okay, and then here I've got to be more careful because Vespighi's in the same shot, which means that we don't have alpha here, so it doesn't do us any good to alpha lock it. Although, we should alpha lock it, so that over here, where we do have some alpha, we can just go like this, and it's going to clip it, right? So let's do 12 on the shadow density. And again, for this shot, it seems to be wanting just a little bit stronger shadow action. So that looks pretty good. That feels pretty good. And I have to say now that I see it, that I think I do want that little bit right there. Okay, cool. So now we just go forward. And okay, so here, yeah, so what we're going to do is, I would say, gosh, probably, since we're using the freehand path tool, I guess we'll go ahead and do lasso erasing for this. And I can see that it would be smart to get all the shadows actually, or I'm sorry, all the keyframes blocked in. So that works because I just made a bunch of duplicates so that all the shadows on his body are preserved. Okay, so then we'll cut to this and just insert a key, skip forward, and then what do we have here? Okay, so we're going to have a key there. And that really should probably be a duplicate of this one. Okay, we'll stop there and then let's get this all dialed in and then we'll come back. Boom, boom, G key. Now let's just toggle back and forth. And get this stuff. Oops, we don't want to be in erase mode. So this was kind of a drag. I mean, honestly, to miss the goal of getting it done in 6 hours was a necessary thing for me. You know, I needed to have that failure under my belt, but it was kind of a bummer. So there was a point where I said, okay, dude, you're going to have to just slow down and accept the fact that you sort of missed it this time and try to catch it again next time, you know. World will keep on turning. Yeah, I guess that's going to be something like that. The world will keep on turning. So I guess for me, my thinking is, let's get a beat on how the show does in the open marketplace, and then make an evaluation over whether to try pitching a more expansive approach to production, you know, in order to accelerate it. We'll see. Because I really don't want to, I don't love the idea of creating a show every 3 or 4 months. That I really would prefer to move it along faster than that, you know, without a doubt. So, what's going on over there? You're still talking to Goswami, aren't you? Then which should I pick? Just taking an opinion. No, we shouldn't answer that. Nope. Nah, I won't answer it. Besides, I've already answered it 5,000 freaking times. You just don't accept the answer that you're given. In fact, the question you're asking, I've specifically answered many times. I've told you, if you're going to pick one, pick Tahoma. And accept the fact that Tahoma has limits. There are limitations in Tahoma. It doesn't do everything that you could possibly want to do. Get over it. If you can't create something cool within the limits of what you can do in Tahoma, then you can't create something cool, period. And if it turns out you suck, you want to find out as soon as possible and turn your attention to something else other than animation. Okay? I actually don't believe that you do suck. You just have a discipline problem. It's perfectly understandable. You know, it's not a crime to have a discipline problem, but man, people have tried to help you so much here and in many other places that it's like, dude, quit freaking asking the same stupid questions over and over and over that have been answered over and over and over. I love you, man. I'm telling you this because I want you to be successful and have a good time creating cool stuff. So quit talking about, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? I'm so scared. Is that what we're hearing here? Scared of what? Just get your ass busy. And I'm saying it because basically most of the people in our wonderful little community won't say it. Well, screw that stuff. I'm saying it. If you get over yourself and just do it, it's probably going to turn out you're a talented guy. You know, you probably have some good stuff in there. And nobody gets to see it because you're too busy wasting time asking everyone to make your decisions for you. And that, my friend, is stupid. So, and I mean that. I do say that because I care. I'm not trying to harm you or be mean. I'm trying to help you. This is what fathers do for their children. They try to steer them in the right direction and then turn them loose. You know? Turn them loose. And if they fail, they fail. Who cares? You regroup and try again. I don't think, so put it this way, let's put it in practical terms to make it real easy for you, Goswami. As far as I'm concerned, until you post something on Discord that's a full finished animation that's at least 7 seconds long, ink, paint, shadows, movement, the whole thing. You don't have to have audio, but you have to have a full 7-second animation. You post it on the Discord, okay? Until you've done that, at this point, you shouldn't be allowed to ever ask another question at all. 0 questions, none. Nope, you're not allowed. Nothing. Until you've posted something and actually done something, you're just wasting everybody's time, you know? Sorry, buddy. It is what it is. If that makes you feel bad, tough shitski. Again, it's because we care. We really, really do. Boom, ba-doo, ba-doo. Oop, I guess I need to put a keyframe in there too, don't I? Now, if anybody disagrees with me on, in the little group here and thinks I'm being mean, then go ahead and say so. Animation equals Tahoma, drawing equals Krita, and compositing equals Hit Film Express. Good. Great. Rock and roll, buddy. I've had the same questions, and I've certainly toggled between, to a lesser extent, Blender, but to a greater extent, Krita and Tahoma. But I'm not asking everybody else to decide for me. It's just me, experimenting on my own, and I'm allowed to do that. I can do whatever I want. Boo-doo, boop, ba-doo, doo. By the way, per what I said before, I just cheated a little bit because I figured since this cuts to the wide shot, I figured I'm gonna still put Vespigi's shadows on its own layer, but not in the close-ups. I don't mind putting it all together. So here, basically wherever there's more than one character in the shot, I'm gonna let this stand alone. And if there's just one character in the shot, then it's okay to go ahead and carry forth with the shadows on that layer. You guys understand what I'm saying. No, I look forward to the day, Goswami, when we find out what you're really capable of, because I think it's going to be great. I really truly do. You would not be asking the questions you ask if you didn't really care about creating something cool. You know, I really don't think you would. So I'm sure you got it in you, buddy. I'm sure you do. There's just a little bit of labor required. Okay, so now this part right here, I think I'll put that shadow on Vespiki. So basically, as long, and this is why I'm doing it this way, because as long, you know, if Vespiki's moving around but Golek isn't, then why change the shadows? That just introduces more of the same problems I've been having. So here, we'll just erase this and fix this, which obviously, if I really wanted to, I could copy that from an earlier cell, but cell meaning frame. But that's all good. It's all good. All right, and here, obviously, same situation. What? I know it was annoying. It's really, I wouldn't call, what, answering your questions? I wouldn't call it annoying. It's not annoying. It's like I said, it's, to me, it's like dealing with one of my kids that's a little bit off the path. You know, to me, it's not annoying. It's just that I have to be emphatic with my answer because you know, you got to get it through your head. This isn't, I'm not joking here, you know, I'm serious. When I say you should not be allowed to ask questions, I mean it. You're just past that point. You're way past that point. You're at least 6 months past the point where you should be asking the questions you're asking. You might be asking other questions, like frankly, your question about the transform mask. I mean, look what I did here. I spent 10 minutes showing you about transform masks and Krita and why you actually might want to avoid them. I don't have any problem with that question. Because that's you, you know, you're actually trying to do the thing and you've bumped into some problems and you've got a specific question. Fine, no problem. That's all good. Because you're answering a question for somebody who's expended the effort and bumped into some, you know, some headwinds that maybe they didn't foresee. That's okay. You know, it's all good, buddy. All right. Here we have to, that's probably pretty good. Yep. And now, okay, so now what we'll do is we'll just add something like that. Okay, and then here we'll do the same thing again, but then of course I'm going to have to, well, I mean, I guess I could play around with liquefying this just to be, you know, just to see if I can, right? But it's probably a stupid idea. Oh, I'm big on liquefy. Yeah, this is stupid. I'm not going to do this. G key, E. Let's just erase this and redraw it. It's faster to redo it than to try to make it work. Now, I am noticing here today with Krita that every time it auto-saves, it does seem to be stalling a bit in terms of the responsiveness of the program. So what that tells me is, to a degree, I'm kind of paying a price for a large file. And I think that if the characters were all in their own groups, so that I could take the groups that aren't currently being used and just turn them off. Like actually, if I turned off the background, that would probably help too. You know, just, you know, there's some stuff going on here that's kind of inviting performance challenges for no good reason. So what do we have here? Okay, I think here I will just hit insert and we'll go back to Golek. So we got his eyes, his little cheekbones, under his chin, under his collar. Here we've got these little interior shadows, slight indication there maybe of something. And then we'll kind of help block in his arms like that. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, well, it doesn't need to change until Golek starts moving. So I'm gonna hit play. One thing I've noticed about the animation cache, well, okay. Yeah, definitely introducing animation challenges. for no good reason. Let's turn Carliana off as well. There's no reason for her to be turned on. And yeah, we're seeing like ridiculous amounts of stalling here in the program, which doesn't really happen very often. Actually, Krita's normally very forgiving of having tons of layers and stuff like that. So I kind of attribute this to I don't know, I guess just the vast number of frames. Now, there is a way to mitigate that a little bit. Let me cancel that. Let me cancel that. What if we say, look, let's just change this. Right now, unfortunately, I'm starting to get frustrated because Krita's interface is actually becoming really unresponsive. Like I click and nothing happens, and now it's got to think. So this is bad. This is really annoying. But what I'm trying to do here is I right mouse click. Let's set the start time here. And then let's go through this whole section. I think this actually carries us through the rest of the shot. It does. So, and then we'll set the end time here. Now that should probably help a lot. See, so now Krita doesn't have to think about everything that happened up to frame 67. So that helped a ton. Cool beans. Let's keep moving forward then. All right, Golik's shadow doesn't change until here. So here, let's go ahead and redo it. G key. And we have a disaster. Stop everything. We have a disaster. It's my own fault. It appears to me that, okay, I'm not quite sure how that worked out. So I thought it was worse than it is, because I just noticed that it's shadow 2 that's selected, and the shadows are supposed to be being drawn into shadow G shadow. So it looks like we're okay though. So now we're back on track. So G key. Whew, that was scary. A little brush with disaster, huh? Do. So we'll get all the shadows in, and we'll see how it goes. But I may end the session after just getting all the shadows in, and then, or I may move on and do the lip sync. We'll see. I make no promises today. No. Oh, and by the way, I looked at the show. I was like, okay, well, how much more animation do I have to do to have all 48 minutes done? And I was shocked. I thought it was like somewhere between 2 and 6 minutes. You know how much is left to do on the show? 46 seconds. It's almost done. That's some crazy stuff, huh? Control insert on that keyframe so we can basically erase just this stuff. And then fix that up. And no reason, by the way, that we can't actually zoom in a bit here. Zooming in, zooming in. E key, boom. We're zooming in. What time is it? 10:58, so it's about 11 o'clock. So I've been streaming for an hour, yep. So not the most efficient work I've ever done. But, okay, so what I started to say and then never finished it because Krita's performance was so awful was that when you want to refill the animation cache, actually you really only need to hit start. Well, normally I'm experiencing greater performance difficulties on this shot than I have experienced in Krita in, I would say, in months. This is turning out to be the most awful experience I've had in a long time. I've had stability issues, but I haven't had performance issues like this where it's just every step you take, the software is just dogging it. Not sure the reason, but there it is, my friends. There it is. I don't want the B key, I want the G key. Okay. And that was a mistake. Yeah, I'm seeing the auto saving. Again, it's probably just because of the size of the file. It just goes to show if you're gonna do animation, you're really better off to put one shot in one. Do your shots one by one because you'll probably be sorry. Now that's less true in Tahoma. Tahoma is definitely better with dealing with long shots. But okay, and I'm just gonna reinsert a new keyframe and just redo it. Sometimes it's quicker just to not think about like what you can what you have to throw away and what you have to keep. Just don't even think about it. Just throw everything away and redo it. Because it turns out that decision process is the time-consuming thing, not the production work. It's decidedly non-intuitive. Okay. Insert. Zuko says, "Hey, baby," when Valerie walks through the room. Nice. Well, I know who he got that from. That would be me. Amar. Oh, he's singing the praises of CSP. CSP may save the world. We'll see. Now, if I was gonna really go hardcore with a new program entirely, particularly a commercial program. Well, I shouldn't say a commercial program. If I was gonna go in a different direction, like in a radical way, I'm sure it would be Blender. It'd be the Blender grease pencil, frankly. So there's that. Okay, I'm gonna loop this animation and take a couple minute break, fill my cup back up, yada yada yada. So main screen, we will turn off the webcam and we will turn off the microphone. Sorry, Darren, I did miss your question. You said, did you see my comment about the Krita animation cache on your Discord? No. I would love to take a look at that right this moment. Where is that question? Under general, I assume? Yep. Had a quick Google about the animation cache, and most posts I've read that fix the issue seem to suggest turning it on in the in-memory cache setting in Canvas settings, graphics acceleration, then restarting Krita. Okay, so yeah, my settings are in memory for sure. You don't want to be having the cache be on disk. That's for sure. And when you have 32 gigabytes of memory like I do, it's not a problem to have it in memory. Canvas graphics acceleration is probably on, and by the way, there's my webcam again. But I'm not 100% sure about that. We can take a quick peek. Configure Krita. I'm going to assume that's probably under performance. So we've got our memory limit cranked, animation cache, and canvas only settings. No. Where's the... Maybe under display actually. Now I'm using, yes, canvas graphics acceleration, so that's already on. It has been for a long time, and I found when I used Direct 3D that it seemed to me to perform worse than OpenGL on my machine, so there it is. No, here's what I think's going on actually, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I suspect that under the hood that Krita deals with, you know, what you have is you've got groups that at the end of the day, any given group represents a sequence of frames, you know, because it's compositing these layers into a frame, and then you've got a certain amount of movement and change within that composited, calculated frame sequence. Okay. So then what the software has to do is decide when the sequence is dirty, which means if anything in any of the layers changes, then effectively that group is dirty. Now, in reality, just that one frame within the group is dirty, but I suspect what's going on here is that when I have top-level groups, and this is one character, and so I basically wind up with 2 or 3 top-level groups plus a background. Usually it's 2 top level, it's usually 3, 2 characters and a background, and each are in a group. I suspect that the memory management in Krita and the management of when things are dirty is partly based on the grouping mechanism, such that when everything is broken into a few top level groups, there's less calculation that has to be going on because it sticks a pin in the groups that definitely haven't changed at all. That's what I'm suspecting. I could be totally wrong about that. I'm just guessing, but that's kind of the way it feels. Okay, back to work, my friends. We are in the shadow layer. But yeah, this shot, and by the way, I can see this little issue right there. Being that's a one frame tween, it probably doesn't matter, but I'm seeing more performance challenges on this shot than the 20-second long shot I did of Melchizidek the other day. Well, why would that be? I suspect it's because we've got a much larger group, especially this one, this interior group, and then within this interior group we also have, we've actually got 3 nested groups. And as we can see, performance starts to take a serious nosedive. So if I was advising somebody, even though I don't really know, I would tell them to favor a small number of top-level groups in order to optimize performance. Because theoretically, this is about the same length as the shot I did the other day. And yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of a performance challenge on that other 20-second sequence, but it was nowhere near what I'm seeing here today. And of course, it could be, you know, maybe there's something going on with my machine that is, you know, just causing things to be more silly than normal. It's virtually impossible to know. So, and to be fair, of course, you know, if you if you bake the whole thing down into a flat image sequence, say in this case before doing the shadows, then you're essentially doing Krita's job for it, which is, you know, you're saying, hey, let's go ahead and optimize the performance and get rid of all this grouping and layers and stuff. Like the one thing you just saw it right there. The thing I'm seeing today that I have barely seen at all in the last month or so is that when it auto saves the file, instead of just happening seamlessly like it normally does, the tools actually quit working. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So as you saw there on his face, when it auto saved, all of a sudden the freehand path tool quit working for a moment. You know, that's not normal. That is not normal. Oh, I got to get his cheekbone. Sorry. And then this is a fairly wacky tween for sure, but we'll get her. That we can use the alpha lock to our advantage a little bit. Did I get the... Nope, I didn't. Yeah, okay. So here, boom. I just want to keep it, you know, consistent-ish. And that frame hasn't been done yet, so let me keep going back till I see the shadows. And we got to shorten along, shorten along, shorten along. Everything's in motion here, so it's not super critical. And for those who are freaking out because there's no I'm going to actually hit control insert on that one. That's actually not too bad. What was I about to say? For those who are freaking out that Golek has no mouth, that is because none of the lip sync has been added yet. Oops, I don't want to be in erase mode now. So all the lip sync is still coming. And there's a fair amount of it in this shot, actually. Fair amount of lip sync. I do believe this is the pose Golek settled into, is it not? Not quite, unfortunately. So boop, we got to keep going. And boop, we got to keep going. And now, of course, again, because of the animation cache, we're not seeing very well what's really going on. Yeah, it's a bit of, the whole memory management thing's a bit of a mystery. Just because, if you, I mean, you look at Blender. I mean, here's a program that's managing multi-gigabytes of stuff in memory. Millions of polygons, and it does it elegantly. You know, not exactly flawlessly, but basically pretty close to it. The difference is substantial. Point being that obviously it's possible. But yeah, Krita does not do a good job of basically just taking care of memory management and updating things in the background seamlessly while you're working, using idle moments. You know, it's pretty bad at it, frankly. I mean, a program like, you know, a 10-year-old program like PAP, like plastic animation paper, which I have nothing good to say about the new version of that the guy's working on. I think it's one of the most wrong-headed projects I've ever seen in the software space. But the original version was really performant. Problem with plastic animation paper is you couldn't do anything with color. You know, you could only get up to the ink and paint stage, basically, without having to go out to another program. Okay, so I'm gonna save my work. Save. So we'll kill the Discord and go back to here. So how many real man hours do you plan to complete? How many real man hours? Okay, hang on a second, dude. I'm sorry. Sorry, Amar, for missing your. Yeah, I mean, I could look at the task manager to see if it's out of memory. It's not out of memory. No, that's not what's going on. How many man hours? I don't know, because it's there have been a lot of days over many months where I only worked on it for like an hour and a half, or sometimes 2 hours, sometimes not at all. You know, there have been seasons where I just took a break. So I don't know. I do know that there was a period a year ago when I was putting in more time. I don't know, it probably lasted a month or something, where I was really burning it pretty good. And it seems to me that the pace at that point was pretty similar to what I'm getting now. I was generating sometimes 15, 20 seconds in a day. And I don't know that, you know, I think I'm better at drawing now. There's a few things in the process that I'm better at now, so I'm getting better results, but I don't know if it's because I'm any faster. I don't know that I've really sped up. This is Vespigi Shadow. I just don't know. Let's go back to the beginning. So it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, what I found is, for me personally, you can do you can put it this way: you can generate a shot. So sometimes a shot's 2 seconds, sometimes a shot's 10 seconds, right? But on average, you can generate a shot in 2 hours. You know, you pencil test it, ink and paint, just do the whole thing. Generally 2 hours will get you a shot. So that's kind of pretty much the basis I would say I'm operating on. So there it just went again. Now it's interesting that after the autosave completed, it actually completed my stroke. So it's not that it's not catching it, it's just that it's having to interrupt itself. So whatever. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, friends? Okay. Now down here, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do anything down there. Let's just go with 15% here and start chomping through. Okay, so this is great. This is what we want, right? So now I'm going to hit insert, and probably when we come back to here, we'll probably be able to cut and paste that in. So let's give it a crack and see what happens. Right there. Nope, that will not work, because he's in a different position. So we might be able to cheat this one a little bit with liquify, just because it's the same head. So yeah, I mean, I can kind of cheat that one, especially because it's a tween. But I would say here we want to just generate a new So anyway, Amar, those are the numbers that seem to be emerging for me pretty consistently. Is when you figure it all out and you assume that you're a lazy guy that's only going to work 6 hours a day, it just comes out to that it takes you 3 to 4 months to create a 24-minute episode, and that is consistent with what I've been seeing because I've been able to crank out a. I mean, the last webisode was only 8 days ago, and I keep saying I'm going to go get the soundtrack done so I can release another one, but I mean 2 weeks between 5-minute webisodes, that's crazy stuff. That's fast. Faster than it needs to be, I guess. Okay, why do we see... Okay, I guess that is. So it's for the reason you would expect, which is that the animation cache didn't update. Frankly, Krita's poor management of the animation cache is probably the single, if there was one reason that would make me go, okay, fine, I quit, forget it, I'm going back to Tahoma or whatever, I would say that's the reason. It's truly maddening to use an animation program that refuses to show you what's actually current on the current frame. I mean, it's like stunningly scary how you can screw up that badly in the development of a piece of software. But there it is. I mean, it is what it is. And it seems like it was better in Krita 4, towards the end. Krita 5's been a massive step backwards with massive steps forwards at the same time. So, and it always seems to be the case. Whatever tool you're using, there's always one thing about it. It's like the smart raster levels in Tahoma that can't decide if, just can't decide if you really are wanting to overwrite a line. To have the whole program be wrecked functionally by something so stupid is just sad. It's like you think, God, you'd think they'd take 5 seconds and address that. You really would think they would. It's a little baffling, but I guess that's the nature of open source software is, you got to find somebody in the community that's willing to dive into the code and solve the problem, As I like to say, it is what it is. Okay, so now here we're going to have, boom. Okay, so here, let's actually insert a keyframe and then Control-Shift-V, put that in there. And now, hit the G key, we want to have no selection. And of course, it's not fair to complain in the sense that, well, if it's that big of a deal, why don't you get involved and go build the software and dive into the code yourself? That's totally a fair argument, Totally fair argument. And right there, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of articulation here. Okay. I'm going to hit Control Insert. And the only reason I'm doing that here, oh golly, God, the animation cache is so unreliable. It's just scary. Really, truly just, wow. Okay, it's what we get to deal with. The The only reason I did it this way, I'm making copies of the keyframes, is because I don't want to keep repainting this. So, no big deal. We don't want to be in erase mode. So yeah, this is a brutal scene. I'm going to be looking forward to getting this scene done and be able to move on to just shots that are a single shot. You know, no more of this 20 minutes in a row. But, you know, I've tried it twice in the last week or so, and it's not horrible, but it's pretty close to horrible. So, you know, these shorter shots, Krita is really quite performant. Okay, so now we got to get the shadows up here on this little section. Okay, Amar, so you asked that question and the answer I gave you, blah, blah, blah. Consolidate into 8 to 12 hours a day. How long would it take to get 47 minutes? Well, let's not talk about 47. Let's talk about 24, since 24 is an actual functional TV episode. There's a few things about that you have to keep in mind. One is, in a typical anime situation, you're really talking about even less than that, because you've got the intro and the outro. You know, you got a lot of things that are sort of chewing up a little bit of the time. Perhaps the recap. So functionally, what do you really have in terms of new content at each episode? Probably, I'm going to guess, probably 21 and a half to 22 minutes is what I'm thinking, probably. I haven't gone and, like, totally double checked that. I'm thinking about this hand that didn't get colored. So let's say 24. What I'm saying is 6 hours of effort generally seems to yield somewhere north or south of 20 seconds of show. So that means you're generating a minute in 3 days, which means 2 minutes a week. 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's my work week. Pretty much is my work week, actually. Okay. So you can generate 2 minutes a week. So that means what? It means that 12 weeks gives you a show. It's about that simple. And then of course factor in, you know, you get reuse too as you build up a show. You get reuse. I completed over a minute of show 2 days ago, you know, and that was because I probably had one or two completely from scratch shots, and then I was able to pull stuff out of the archives where it's like the pose was just perfect, and it was like, okay, let's just use that, and the storytelling flowed just fine. So that just confirms my assessment that 20 seconds a day is not ridiculous at all. Not at all. Okay, I want to go in here and look at, okay, copy of Vespigi color. Okay, I would say, yes, let's turn these shadows off for half a second. Well, actually, we don't need to turn the shadows off. We need to sample that color right there. Okay, and then in this frame, we need to do a fill in behind mode of that. That's all we needed, I think. Let's go to the next frame. Yep, then his hand comes down. So, okay, we're cool. We're getting there. So, yeah, I mean, bottom line is, if you figure 12 weeks, you know, it's a person working modestly hard. You can do it in 12 weeks. So now you're talking, you know, if you give yourself one more month to write the thing and do the audio, and, you know, which I think is completely reasonable, then now you're into 16 weeks. So 4 months gives you an episode. That means 3 episodes a year, which is 72 minutes of finished animation in a year. So basically, when I'm working hard, I can do a movie's worth of. I could do a movie a year if I was doing movies. I don't want to do movies. I have no interest in doing movies really at this point. But you could. You could do, and I say that because a 72-minute for an animated feature that's aimed at kids or whatever, 72 minutes for a show is not ridiculous. It's on the short side, obviously. Live action movies tend to want to be somewhere between 90 and 110 minutes. And the strictly going rate of length for an animated feature is actually 82 minutes. But, just saying. Okay, here, okay, I see what's going on. Right here, let's go to the Vespigi shadow layer. And let's grab the liquefy tool. And here we're just going to make a little mod. That takes care of that. So does he move or does he not move? So he does. So just a moment ago, Krita did the same thing. It looked like the frame didn't change. The reason it's so atrocious is because if the software doesn't keep track of what changed accurately, then you're continually going, oh, nothing changed there, and so you move on to the next thing, and then what happens is you go back and play your whole animation, you find out there's like 7 frames that have to still be done because the software didn't show you the fact that the frames had changed. It's just really beyond the pale in terms of like, wow, that's really awful. But it is what it is, and it's not egregious enough to keep me from using Krita. It's just not. Okay, so apparently that post for Vespigi lasts for 2 frames. So somewhere along the lines here, he's going to start moving. There we go. Just going to do it up here a little bit, and then a little mod here on the beard situation. So I freely admit that, these are just observations, and yeah, they're complaints, but if you're not going to do something about it, then what good's it do to complain, I guess, right? So we got to regenerate. Okay, so I'll tell you what we're going to do here in half a second. Let's go ahead and put, right now, Krita is being unresponsive, so there you can see the little wait icon. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set a start time here, end time here, and actually, believe it or not, I'm going to save the work so it's saved in that state. Okay. So and it's a fair question right now to ask does that kind of solve the problem? Like if you're going to pack a bunch of shots into one shot, do you solve the performance problem by just isolating and working on one area at a time? I mean, it looks like yes. It looks like it does, because now it's like snappy as can be, and the animation cache doesn't even have to refill. So the Speaky shadow, we need to be in that layer. So that goes there. Okay, slight mod there. And by the way, on Shadow 2, frankly, I want to actually add a slight mod right there. Okay, so now let's go back to Vespigi Shadow here. Same thing, actually. Shadow 2 is wrong. So what doesn't help, what that doesn't help is the auto saving, because the auto saving is still having to save a very, very large file. So the auto saving is still interrupting the workflow. But as far as the general responsiveness of the animation cache, it does seem to help to isolate a limited number of frames. So you can take or leave that. Here I'm gonna just I just want to clean that up. I mean, it's a one frame tween, so technically I could get away with it. But yeah, let's just fix it up. Why not? Okay, so if you've not checked out Zima on it, I'm not going to check out any new software. No, not going to do it. I don't care about new software. It sounds crazy when it took Noble Frugal 5 years for 3 minutes on animation. Yeah, well, I mean, the question for me is, I mean, is it amazing? Is it amazing? That's all I'm wondering. You know, I mean, I know Ross is, you know, his progress pace is more consistent, and I don't say this disparagingly. He's a lot slower in terms of pure finished minutes of animation generated, but he's doing full 24 frame per second. You know, he's doing the Disney thing, right? So I don't really have a negative opinion about that at all. It just depends on what you're trying to do in terms of your project. So, okay, so if that's the way you're going to look at it, then it could be that theoretically, if this was Disney, then just divide it by 3, and maybe theoretically what that means is I can generate one 24-minute episode that's Disney quality in a year. Is that true? Is that possible? It probably is, actually. I don't know that it is because I don't know if I can, you know, I'm not good enough to actually get to that level at all anyway, right? I mean, let's be honest, people. But if I can, I mean, I have pretty high level of confidence in myself in that I suspect that, yes, I can. Actually, if I really wanted to do the Disney thing, I bet you I could do it. I am very much not trying to do that. But if I really wanted to, I'll bet you I could. Because to me, that's just a matter of being vigilant. You know, you just look at the work you're doing and you recognize when things are going south and refuse to accept them, you know, half crappy, and you fix them. You just do, right? Okay, so let's go here, here. Okay, that does not work. Let's delete that keyframe. Boom. So it looks to me, hello? Oh, I see. Let me look at Golic. Okay, yes. This frame needs to be deleted as well in the Shadow 2 layer. So basically we've got at least one frame of breather there. Okay, and let's go to the Shadow 2. As long as we're here and we're doing it, let's go ahead and fix that right there. Okay. But yeah, 5 years for three seconds of animation, for me, that just doesn't really work for me. Oh, Zima animation is a... Gotcha. Sorry, dude. And at least he finished it. Well, I'm not interested in just finishing, you know. I'm interested in creating a viable, marketable product. So that's all there is to it. And if someone wants to argue that this is not a viable, marketable product, then they're welcome to make that argument. And we'll disagree, and time will tell. Okay, so now we can get back to here. It's like the idea of creating a team. Oh, golly, this stupid secondary shadow. Okay, stop everything, and then wait for a minute and a half for Krita to actually become responsive again, just to fix this little hiccup right here, and then have everything quit working because of the auto saving, which, you know, you can't now there for the for that to sneak out a little bit is actually okay within all these tweens, because things are on the move. But what I was about to say is that it's no better in Tahoma, especially if you use raster layers to any degree. Auto-saving in Tahoma brings... I don't use auto-save in Tahoma because it literally brings the whole program to a standstill. So you can sit and complain about it in Krita, but the fact is it's worse in Tahoma. Quite a lot worse, actually. Krita, if you manage your file sizes, you know, in other words, don't try to pack so much into one shot like I did here, then normally Krita is actually pretty performant, especially with auto-saving. Does a great job. Okay, so let's hit the GE. Just get rid of these little hiccups right there. Hiccup, hiccup. The problem is that, honestly, I think from the vantage point of developers, you know, developers want to develop, let's say, sexy features. And it's exciting to announce sexy features. But when you're doing the brickwork of an animated television show, what you find is what really ruins your day is simple memory management. It's when the software clearly is having problems counting. You know, things like that. It's like it turns out that the really mundane stuff is what either makes your workflow really wonderful or really miserable. It isn't the sexy stuff. The sexy features, you know, I mean, look at Toy Story. I mean, you know, in 1995, if you really want to find a way to do it, you can find a way to do it. Yeah, see, right there it goes again. You can find a way to, you know, make the character move the way you want to make them move. Even if you have to do it one little micro, you know, molecule at a time, you can, at least you can do it. But if you're this is how you get at your work done. Okay? There's a point where you go, oh my God, I quit. This isn't worth it, you know, if that's how you have to try to get your work done. And what is that point? Well, the reality is that point right now, for me, does not exist with Krita or Tahoma. They both suck in many ways, but neither of them sucks enough to abandon and just say, okay, to hell with it, I quit. You know, it just is what it is. So for you, Amar, you're insistent that if you just gave it 60 days of really boning up on Clip Studio Paint, you'd find that that's the program that'll give you that reliable, performant tool that you want. And you know what? You might be right. I mean, clearly it's being used in the anime industry. It's the only Western software, as far as I know, that is finding pretty widespread adoption. You know, Toons, you know, like with Ghibli and stuff, Toons had some adoption. But it's really Clip Studio that seems to be emerging as a increasingly popular tool in the anime space. But, you know, in the Western world, it's the opposite. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that essentially Toon Boom has been the dominant tool in Western, you know, and your Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, all that kind of stuff. I think Toon Boom has been the tool that has pretty much carried the day in the Western world. Am I wrong? I don't know. I don't know. But, you know, on the traditional animation channel on Facebook, you know, I see people posting really good work. You know, I talk about like Ross's work and full chain. There's guys here at Tadeo who do, they're doing really good work. But the stuff that people are posting on the traditional animation group, that Lavelle Lee, who's the vice president of Don Bluth Studio, Lavelle runs that group on Facebook and on Discord, actually. The stuff that people post there is really good. I mean, it's Disney quality, a lot of it. But it's little 3 to 7 second clips that aren't part of a larger context of some kind of show or something. And so the pragmatist in me says, well, okay, I mean, it's really cool, but in the media world, it's basically useless, because that talent or that skill is only useful when it gets plugged into a much larger project that might be the kind of project that, look at Full Chain. I mean, Full Chain, here's a very talented animator who was working on stuff for, Warner Brothers or whatever it was, and got totally burned out so bad that he had to completely quit the industry for some period of time. I mean, oh my God, that's what happens to these people? That's terrible. So was it really worth it, to be able to create Warner Brothers style animation? Is that let's go ahead and wreck your life. But boy, you created a few seconds of cool animation. It's just stupid to me. It's I don't want to do that. I care about the stories. I like Vespigi. I like Golik. That's what I care about. I like these guys, Carliana. What's driving her? It's about the story, man. It's the epic mythology that I'm trying to build here. That's what keeps me going, not the animation. And so I can deal with tools that are a little bit stupid, even if I do complain about them. Okay, we got to get into lip sync here. And I pretty much can say that I think we should be able to just smack it all onto a single layer. So let's go. We'll just call this mouth. And insert a key. I have no idea what the dialogue is. What about the Western markets? Toon Boom is one of them. Yeah. I don't know what else people use. I mean, the Blender Grease Pencil's starting to get some traction. Certainly it's been getting traction in the CGI space, motion tracking. In terms of widespread adoption, actually, I would even say this, that having state-of-the-art motion tracking in Blender might have been a coup in terms of adaptability in the high-end professional space. It really competes favorably with some other programs that are quite expensive. And I've certainly used it I used it in my movies 10 years ago. I mean, the motion tracking in Blender was good 10 years ago. And it's as good as it gets today, I would guess. I'm pretty sure. You can certainly do full on. That guy you even cited a few weeks ago here in the chat. Can't remember his channel now, but what he's doing with 3D tracking and virtual sets and all that is just crazy. And then meantime, you got, of course, you got the Unreal Engine, and I forget what the other major gaming platform is, but they have real-time capabilities that are out of this world as well. So I guess it's a good time to be a creator. All right, let's look at the dialogue, because I had to restart my computer yesterday. Unity. Unity's the other one I was thinking of. Yep, Unreal and Unity are both pretty impressive. Looks like OpenOffice has to do a recovery on it because of when the system crashed. So Golik said that a great evil's been visited upon us and stopped the rain. The Princess Bride was kidnapped. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the show. I guess I'll pop that up on this screen so you guys don't have to wonder what the heck's going on here. Yes, so he says the Princess Bride was kidnapped. And the crowd is murmuring, and then Golik is saying, oh, got it. Actually, Golik doesn't have any dialogue here at the beginning. Um, yes, this is all silent. Okay, right here is where it goes. So let's just go with the G key. And we're doing anime style lip sync. So it's such E, such evil. Can. Oh, okay. So we got to get into. Actually, I wonder if his lip sync needed to start sooner. Yes, I was wrong. I'm going to just redo this. Right there. Okay, and wow. That is so crazy. It missed my control key. So let me just grab this little segment right here. I'm making his mouth a little bit more exaggeratedly open because this is actually a really wide shot. Okay? I may regret that, friends. And so, just to be safe, I'm going to clone this keyframe and paste it here. That way, if I decide that open mouth is too open, I can just change it once. Okay, and this should be something of that nature. And now, is he on the move there? He is. So we got to insert a key. So this is small open. Small open. Big. Okay. I do believe. Insert. Insert. Okay. Auto saving brings everything to a crawl. Unfortunately. Um, um, and on. Horrible. Creepily horrible. Just creepy. Auto saving. I really should just turn auto saving off because it's made the program. Okay. I think I'm seriously considering actually pausing here because basically performance is so bad that I can't just flow with the tool at all, right? And so what's happening is I'm putting in lip sync and then I'm looking at it and realizing, well, actually the words he just said really are supposed to happen here on the wide shot. And I can't just scroll back and forth and just look at my shot and go, well, okay, let's just kind of quick review and just kind of get our bearings. It's like click, wait, I just clicked, nothing happened. Click, you know, that kind of worked. It is frighteningly bad right now. Frighteningly. Vespucci's line is such evil cannot stand. It's an unspeakable or an inexcusable insult. Cannot stand. It's an unspeakable insult. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple phonemes here. Not in erase mode, Dave. Okay, let's keep going forward. Yep, I'm going to quit. Here's why. I just need to take a break from this. Because what I've realized here is because everything's baked together so much, and Golik's mouth is in the drawing. Normally that wouldn't be a problem, but I can see right now that we have to have this really jittery relationship with Krita while determining how many frames I actually have to erase his mouth from. Well, okay, maybe we're okay. It looks to me like, okay, it looks like what I did was I gave it a moment for Golik to think about the situation. So maybe we can make this work. Let's try. Let's try. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Golik says to each and every one of you. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is put this over this. To each and yeah, see, that's where I took the mouth out. I had forgotten I did that. That shouldn't really be a smile. One. I'll go ahead and allow that to be a proper phoneme because he says each and every one of you. So this is This is so, it's working here with Krita is kind of like so painful that I'm starting to sacrifice the work. It's like, okay, I'd rather have it suck and get it done. And I really don't really want to work that way. Okay. But yeah, this is a miserable experience. So, well, just for you guys' information, what's the lesson? Well, number one, keep your characters and their respective layers, each in their own top level group. I'm pretty sure that's the great and massive mistake that I made here on this shot. But anyway, it looks like it might actually be done if I'm lucky here on the. We'll see how it looks in the show. But yeah, really, really painful. Totally my fault though. Totally my fault by trying to. Auto saving works great, Blender. Thank you. If the auto saving was the only thing that was bogging things down here, Darren, then I would just turn it off for now, for sure. But there's just a lot of things working together. So, but here we are. It's been 2 hours. So basically, this whole shot would have taken about 8 hours, start to finish. So it's still not the end of the world. I mean, I'm a little off my game, but we're doing okay. We'll see how it looks in the show, how it flows. And now we've got the shadows in there. Now we got the lip sync in there. Let me put the script up here. And I'll go ahead and put the show on the large screen. But yeah, this is just to save this is taking a lot longer than the 20-second shot I did of Melchizedek the other day. So the shots are the same length. That's what's crazy. In fact, this one's actually a little bit shorter because that one was 160 and this one's 120. So who knows? I'm going to go ahead and kill Krita so I can restart it, but then we'll jump back over here to the show. We'll put the preview in full mode and then look at what we've got. So obviously the crowd shots have to be done. But Golik says, "Hear me. A great evil has been..." oh yeah, okay, let's go back here. He says, "Hear me," and we have to fix his hat, by the way, of course. So over the crowd, he says, "A great evil has been visited upon us and stopped the rain. The prince's bride has been kidnapped." Kidnapped? What? That's outrageous. Blah, 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 blah. So then Vespigi steps up. "Such evil cannot stand. It's an inexcusable insult to each and every..." Okay. So I'm going to change the line of dialogue because the lip sync made it difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to "it's inexcusable dash an insult." Okay, so let me... change that. I'm pretty sure that fixes the... So it's a minor change on the dialogue that makes the lip sync work. All right, come on, baby. Light up here. "Such evil cannot stand. It's an inexcusable in..." Okay, and I got it wrong. Such an evil cannot stand. Okay, one more time. Okay, that'll work. Let's keep watching here. "To each and every one of you." Oh yeah, and then Vespigi says yes. Okay, so now what just happened there? Yeah, so we actually have some frames here at the end that still need shadows, which I did not see. Apparently because Krita wasn't updating or something stupid. And we need to add that additional lip sync. Quite frankly, it's crazy town, man. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So Let's pop Krita back up and see if it's still acting stupid. But yeah, I in the last month, I have not seen the type of the level of difficulty that this shot has delivered me into. And I'll be, you know, I mean, I had to try it. I tried it twice. I tried 2 shots that were between 10 and 20 seconds long. And I would say, broadly speaking, mostly you regret it. Yeah. Okay, so let's just see what we have here. I hit the space bar. Nothing happens for about 2 seconds. It's regenerating the cache. It's pretty slow. You know, what's weird too is I've had, this is showing 996 megabytes. I've had shots that were more than 2 gig. That, you know, weird. I remember that being one of the things that was really good in Krita 4.4.7 or something like that, where all of a sudden they really improved the memory management. But as I've said, you know, there were a lot of things in Krita 5 that were steps forward followed by huge steps backward. So, is what it is. Okay, so it looks like this is the mouth layer. If we were gonna fix Vespigi, yeah. So what really should happen here is that phoneme right there should be removed. Probably that one too, actually. So let's just try that. And it's got to regenerate the cache. My basic complaint about regenerating the cache is that it should be happening in the background. You shouldn't actually, it's absolutely possible that the software would never make you wait, because there's plenty of time for it to be doing all this in the background. An insult. Yeah, so that's better. Okay, stop. I refuse to hurry here. Such evil cannot stand. Okay. An insult. Okay, so he really needs another phrase. If we put outrageous on Vespigi instead of the crowd, that's easy enough to do. Now what he would say is, such evil cannot stand. It's outrageous, inexcusable, an insult. That would work. That would work. Yep, that would work. So we'll go with that. I don't mind bending the dialogue here and there to make it fit. You know, it's not a big deal. Okay, and then here it is auto-saving. And I will turn auto-saving off, although I better darn well start remembering to just save my word. Where is save? Display, color management, performance, canvas only settings. I don't remember where it is. Window, tools, file handling. Yep, there it is. I'm just going to turn it off for now. Okay. We'll see how much that helps. And it says middle click and nothing happens. So, yeah. You know, if you got to remember, if you're going to update your autosave settings, then you got to expect the software to freeze. A. G. Delete that. And then here, I would say delete that. Okay, so there, that gets his yes in there. And basically, I'm going to say, I may come back and massage some stuff, but basically the shot is done. So I'm going to save it, hit Control R, and then I think I'm going to sign off here in a minute and just give myself a break. So, long story short, though, this is the key thing. This shot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 shots in one. When I do these shots one at a time, which is very efficient to do, because if I was doing it, I would do this shot. I would do this shot here, and then I would start out this shot by just grabbing this graphic from this shot, right? So you get huge reuse. If this was done as 5 individual CRAW files, we would not be having any of these performance problems. I'm very, very confident of that. So this is totally my fault. You can see there's kind of a lot there. Don't you know? So, Control R, render that baby. And then we will be hitting the road and getting some lunch. I'm ready for a salad. Evil shall not pass. Checking to cache, checking to cache. Check into cache, checking to cache. Are you talking about the check into cache commercials? Evil shall not pass. Of course, we all know where that's. Well, I mean, you shall not pass. I know where that's from. That would be... oh, I'm having a brain fart on the wizard's name. Because I'm thinking of Ian McKellen and I'm thinking of Merlin. Which Gandalf. Gandalf. Which was actually the, Zuko's precursor. In other words, Valerie's first African gray parrot. That was his name, Gandalf. There goes the postman. He's not stopping by. I wish he would. It seems like my movie royalty payments are getting due. It seems like they're coming due soon. Should be getting to be about that time. Okay. We rendered it. Let's just jump over to Vegas. Boom, boom, boom. We jump to Vegas and let's go to best auto. Turn off the full screen preview and just kind of take a peek here at what we have. Princess Bride has been kidnapped. Evil cannot stand. It's outrageous. An insult. Oh, inexcusable, an insult. To each and every one of you. Yes. Okay, obviously we've got one final languishing problem, which is all the shadows disappeared there. Okay, sorry guys. That was like totally stupid on my part, and I need to fix that like right now. Let's go to the shadows and ask ourselves, let's actually expand this like that. I think if you hit, yes, if you hit Alt, you can scroll your mouse wheel. Okay, so what we've got here, oh, I see what's going on. I see what's going on. I think the original shot was longer. Let's set the end time to there. I'll bet you if I render this, yep, yeah, I didn't render enough frames. That was a stupid attack. So the shot there that didn't have shadows was actually just a languishing old frame that never got rendered over top of. So let's go back here to Krita and wait, and wait, and wait, and wait, and wait, and wait. Well, I knew the evil shall not pass as Lord of the Rings. And then yeah, check into cash. Check into cash. Get your money now. You can get your money now. Don't you want your money? You don't have to wait until the bank's open to cash your check. You can get your money now. If you're living so paycheck to paycheck that you literally would ever want to get your money just like a couple days early, I pray for every one of you that ever watch my YouTube channel that your life is not like that, because that would suck. And I do speak from experience, man. I remember when I was out of college, and gosh, I was making a couple $100 a week working in a recording studio. And golly, I remember being really poor. And I grew up in a fairly lower middle class place anyway. You know, everybody was pretty poor where I grew up. Very lower middle class, actually. Gosh, not a nice place in my opinion. It's up in mid-Michigan. Very racist community, you know. I mean, and not overtly or in a super nasty way, but it's just like, it was just baked into the culture. You know, using the N-word, when I was in elementary school, hearing people use the N-word was totally normal. Yeah, I hear it all the time. You know, it wasn't eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. It was catch a you-know-what by the toe. I mean, seriously, it was just so disgusting. So disgusting. I hate that stuff. In fact, I saw a really good video here on YouTube about neo-slavery. The last actual slave to be legally freed in the United States, that actually happened only 80 years ago, like in the 1940s, like 42, I think it was. But if you really look at what happened, gosh, through Reconstruction, which of course lasted about 7 days before Southern Democrats and Northern Republicans shut it down. But the process of passing laws that were enforced by a justice of the peace, where you'd simply, you know, you'd have these vagrancy laws. This was what Jim Crow was all about. It was little tiny, essentially misdemeanors, you know, for walking past the train tracks or speaking to a white woman or, you know, selling something in particular, you know, or whatever. But basically they would just haul a guy in, typically a black guy, you know, haul him in. Then the justice of the peace, basically the idea was you would find them guilty of something, whatever it needed to be. So, and then justice of the peace could just make up a sentence. So, okay, you're going to get 100 days in jail for vagrancy, right? And so then what would happen is they would lease these prisoners out as labor to like coal mines or steel mills or whatever. And they also had the debt situation. I forget what I forget what the term is for the type of debt, but the idea was that they would impose, the justice of the peace would impose a fine that it's obvious the guy could never pay. And then what would happen is like a landowner or a plantation owner or whatever would step up and say, I'll pay that for him, okay, if he agrees to enter into a work contract. And then the work contract would be such that essentially, because he couldn't read, because at that point in time, you had generations of slaves who were actually legally prevented from learning to read. So they didn't even know what they were signing. So they'd sign a contract, right? And then you'd put them to work and you get to chain them up at night and do everything, whatever you wanted to them. And then when they, when they're, either in the case of the sentencing, when the sentence was up, you just find them guilty of something else. You could leave them in the system longer. Or if it was a person paying your debt situation, every single thing, because you weren't technically a slave, everything that you ate, everything you wore, everything you did basically cost you, and you're racking up your debt. And so you've got this debt that can never be repaid. And it just would so the situation in many respects was actually worse much worse after the Civil War, and all the Jim Crow stuff we learn about in school, that we sort of kind of cover a little bit. All happened much later. Our country has been so screwed up under the hood. It boggles the mind. And most people don't even know it. Heck, I didn't even know half this stuff about how it really worked. But the way the legal system was used to essentially keep people in slavery, even when, and then when the guys that did this stuff came up on charges, they could actually make the legal argument that we haven't committed a crime because what we're doing to these people is effectively slavery. That was actually the argument that got them off the hook. Why? Because the amendment that outlawed slavery only said that you can't have slaves. There was no remedy put into place. It was left for legislation later to impose some sort of remedy. So as an enforceable law, slavery was not actually illegal, even constitutionally. And so the argument that this is not like I violated the rights of a citizen or something, because they're not a citizen, it's just slavery. Oh, okay, so they're legally, then you haven't actually committed a crime. It's insanity. It's like you just want to claw your eyeballs out with disbelief. It's like worse than dealing with Krita. It's so sad. The disingenuous makes me want to puke. The gyrations our country has gone through in order to just keep people impoverished and, just because of the color of their skin. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to cry. So sad. And it still continues today in different ways. I mean, you're seeing it in many states with the trying to disenfranchise minority voters. It's just disgusting. That's true. People don't like talking about it because now it's repackaged as trying to make someone feel white guilt. Well, even from the very first day, I will actually show you guys, just because you guys may find this interesting, so bear with me for half a second here. What I'm going to do is look at my history, and I'll show you the video I watched, because this is a former high school teacher who is actually now just like a YouTuber. And okay, so this is the video.
This video is going to look and sound a little different from my usual content.
I don't know if I have audio on right now.
This topic is serious, complex, and infuriating. It also
looks like I do. So I didn't really mean to turn on the audio for that. But this guy, the part of history you've always skipped, neo-slavery. This is an excellent presentation by this former high school teacher, really covering all the. He really breaks it down in nice detail about how this all happened, and this is the part of American history that you never hear. And he even says in the video is this whole idea that you need to be afraid of being taught critical race theory in high school or in schools to kids it's crazy, because he can tell you that as a high school as a former teacher, if you even tried to teach critical race theory in school, you're going to hear, the way he puts it is, you're going to hear from the parent, at least a parent, that afternoon, and you're going to be hearing from your superintendent by the end of the week. And I'm sure he's right. So anyway, there it is. You can check it out. I think it was quite educational. But with that, I've been rocking for 2.5 hours. So this whole deal basically took about around 8 hours, somewhere between 8 and 9, truthfully. So not the end of the world, but not great either. And so I'll just look at the last comments from Amar. You can say anything about Jews, but when someone brings up our real history, they want to ignore. Absolutely. Well, it is very uncomfortable, and, well, I don't know. We don't need to talk it to death, I guess, at this point. But I can say with absolute honesty that the whole thing just disgusts me to no end. I hate it. Like if I encounter somebody who looks mean or talks differently. Does it make me uncomfortable? Yeah. I mean, I think that's natural. We're all uncomfortable with people who are different from us, but but it's not a crime to be uncomfortable or even suspicious, actually. But to actually institutionalize the complete stripping away of people's rights and dignity and everything else is just, I just can't puke on that enough. I just can't. Critical race theory is a buzzword for not teaching the full history. You're probably right. It's almost the converse of what it's generally perceived as being. But anyway, enough of that for me. I want to take a break and get some lunch. So thanks for hanging in there, you guys. And there will be more later.